The champagne flute in my hand was sweating. Not from the heat, the hotel ballroom had the AC cranked so high my ballroom shoulders were prickling with goosebumps, but from the tremor in my fingers. I'd been holding this same glass for 47 minutes, taking tiny pretend sips, while my sister cut her wedding cake and my parents played Happy Family for the cameras. My phone buzzed again in my clutch. Fourth time in the last hour. I didn't need to look to know who it was. 3 nights ago, a stranger had DM'd me on Instagram. Just one photo, no caption, no follow-up. The timestamp was clear: 2:14 a.m., the lobby of the Grand Hyatt downtown. My husband Zhou Yan, the man I'd married 3 years ago in a ceremony my mother had called the best deal you'll ever make, was checking into a suite with a woman whose face was half hidden by her hair. But I'd recognized the mole on her collarbone. I'd seen it before, at family dinners, at Luna our New Year gatherings, perched on the neck of my sister's best friend. The one who'd always laughed a little too loud at Zhou Yan's jokes. I'd zoomed in on that photo until my thumb cramped. Then I'd screenshotted it, backed it up to a hidden folder, and not slept for the next 2 nights. Now here I was, standing in the corner of a ballroom that cost more per hour than I'd made at my first job out of college, watching my baby sister marry my husband. Well, not watching, exactly. I was watching the way Zhou Yan's hand rested on the small of her back. The way my mother kept dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. The way my father puffed his chest out like he'd just brokered a merger between 2 Fortune 500 companies. The DJ announced the cake-cutting ceremony. My sister Suyao glided toward the center of the dance floor in her custom Vera Wang, her trained CA ride by 2 flower girls who'd been coached to smile even when their ARMS got tired. She looked like a Disney princess if Disney princesses had collagen lip injections and a Birkin bag that cost more than my first CAR. Someone tapped my elbow. My mother, whose face had that particular pinched expression she reserved exclusively for me. Sun Yan. Get over there. Stop lurking in the shadows like a mourning widow. This is your sister's day. I didn't move. I can see the cake from here. Don't be difficult. Her voice dropped to a hiss. You're already 32. You should be grateful you're even allowed at the head table. Now come. 32. The way she said it, you'd think I'd just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. I'd been 32 for 6 months now, and in that time, I'd watched my husband take business trips that didn't exist, seeing credit card charges for jewelry I never received, and Leah Rened to read the signs of a mariage unraveling with the precision of a forensic accountant. But I went. Because that's what I did. I smoothed down my champagne-colored bridesmaid dress, the one Suyao had picked out specifically because it'll make your skin look less sallow, sis, and walked toward the main table. Zhou Yan's eyes flicked to me as I approached, then away. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He was wearing the tie I'd given him for his birthday last year, Hermes. Dark blue with tiny gold anchors. I'd saved for 3 months to buy it. He didn't look at me again. My father took the microphone. The room quieted. He clear-read his throat, the way he always did before making an announcement he thought was important. The sound grated against my ears like a fork on a chalkboard. Before we cut this beautiful cake, my father said, his voice booming through the speakers, I have some wonderful news about a gift from the family. Suyao beamed. My mother clutched her hands together. Zhou Yan adjusted his tie. My father's gaze found me. Sun Yan, your sister and her new husband need a proper place to settle down. You know that penthouse you have downtown, the 300 square meter one with the terrace and the city view? Since you're living alone now, and since you're the older sister, it only makes sense that you'd pass it along to Yao and Zhou Yan as their wedding present. A gesture of family support. The room was so silent I could hear ice cubes melting in someone's champagne flute. Su Yao tilted her head, her voice syrupy sweet. Sis, UPA rely use that place anyway. You're always at work or at Grandma's old house. And Yan and I are just sta rooting out. We need somewhere we can host clients, entertain partners, build our future. It's such a perfect gift from you. Zhou Yan didn't speak. But he didn't object either. He gave a tiny nod, the kind that said, "Of course, this was always the plan." My mother chimed in, her voice raising that edge of smug certainty she got when she thought she'd won. "You're a divorced woman, Sun Yan." "Well, almost divorced, anyway. What do you need a penthouse for? It's practically indecent. We brought the transfer papers. Just sign them tonight, and we'll handle the rest." Divorced. She said it like it was a crime I'd committed, not a wound I'd been crying in secret for 18 months. I looked down at my silver heels. There was a smear of buttercream frosting on the toe of the left one, probably from when I'd accidentally brushed against the dessert table. Reliar. I read at that tiny white smudge for a long moment. Then, something in my chest shifted. A lock turning. A door opening. I looked up and smiled. "Okay," I said. "Sure. I'll hand over the keys." The silence that followed was deafening in its shock. My mother blinked, clear RLY unprepared read for my creation. Su Yao's mouth hung open. Even Zhou Yan's composure cracked for half a second, his brows knitting together like he was trying to solve a math problem. My father recovered first, beaming. "Excellent. That's my girl. Always reasonable." Reasonable. I'd been reasonable for 32 years. I'd been reasonable when my mother told me my ART history degree was useless, so I switched to business. I'd been reasonable when my father said Zhou Yan was a good catch even though he'd never once asked me what I wanted. I'd been reasonable when Su Yao sta route showing up at our APA meant, just to borrow things, that I never got back. I'd been reasonable when I found the first set of receipts for hotel rooms and told myself it was a misunderstanding. Reasonable had gotten me exactly nowhere. I reached into my clutch. The papers were already there, crisp and folded, in the inside pocket where I'd tucked them before leaving home this morning. My mother's hand shot out greedily, then froze midair as I didn't hand them over. "These," I said, holding up the folder, "are the deed transfer documents for the penthouse. But they're not the only ones I brought." I opened the folder slowly, deliberately, letting the room wait. Inside were 6 deeds. 6 properties. Every single one a top-floor penthouse in the most desirable parts of the city. Every single one purchased in the last 2 years, using the money I'd been quietly moving from our joint accounts, the bonuses Zhou Yan thought he'd hidden from me, the returns from investments I'd made without telling anyone. I'd done it all in the dark, in the hours when he was working late. In the afternoons I spent alone in coffee shops with my laptop and a chai latte that went cold while I ran numbers. I'd turned every betrayal into equity. Every lie into SQA footage. Every TR into a down payment. My mother's face drained of color. What is this? "This," I said, "is the wedding gift I'll be giving Yao." I pulled out one deed, the smallest one, a modest 2-bedroom in the suburbs, and slid it across the table. "For you and your new husband. Fully paid." No mortgage. Consider it my blessing. Su Yao's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But the penthouse is mine. And it's staying mine. Zhou Yan finally spoke. His voice was low, controlled, the voice he used in Boa Rudrum negotiations. Sun Yan, you're making a scene. This isn't the time or place. I turned to him fully, and for the first time in 3 years, I let him see everything I'd been hiding. The exhaustion. The disappointment. The slow, burning fury that had been simmering beneath my skin like molten gold. You're right, Zhou Yan. It isn't the time. But it is the place. I wanted your family, your colleagues, your clients to see this. To see you. His face went pale. A rustle came from the back of the room. The crowd parut slowly, reverently, like the Red Sea, and my grandmother stepped through. She was 82, slightly stooped, wearing her best silk blouse and carrying her beat-up canvas tote bag with the broken zipper. Her orthopedic shoes made soft squeaking sounds on the polished floor. She walked straight to the head table, planted herself in front of my father, and reached into her bag. Out came a stack of papers so old they were yellowed at the edges, tied with a faded red string. This, she said, her voice crackly but loud, is the deed to my old house. Your mother's house. The one in the old district with the courtyard and the locust tree. My father's face contorted. Mom, what are you? Grandma cut him off. It's been in the family for 3 generations. And it was never meant to go to any son. My mother-in-law put it in writing before she died, the house passes to the first granddaughter. Not the first grandson. Not the eldest son. She untied the string and let the papers fall onto the table. I've been holding on to this for 23 years, waiting for the right moment. Su Yao's voice pitched up, panicked. But I'm the granddaughter too. Why does she get it? Grandma turned to look at her. Just looked. Su Yao's mouth snapped shut because, Grandma said slowly, you've already taken plenty. And Sun Yan, she reached out and took my hand. Her palm was dry and calloused, and her fingers were knobby from arthritis, but her grip was solid as iron. My granddaughter hasn't taken a single thing that wasn't hers. She let go of my hand and turned to face the room. Now, she said, I have something else to say. About that young man right there. She pointed her cane, just a simple wooden one with a rubber tip, directly at Zhou Yan's chest. The one who spent last night in a hotel suite with a girl named Lin Warner. Zhou Yan went so white I could see the veins in his temples. Grandma smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Lin's father runs that building materials market on the east side. She's got a nice little trust fund, but she's also got a jealous streak. I wonder how she's going to feel when she finds out your new wife is her best friend from college. The room erupted. Phones came out. Voices rose. Somewhere, a woman shrieked, did she just say? Su Yao stumbled backward, her veil catching on the edge of the cake table. The 3-tiered confection wobbled, lurched, and toppled in slow motion, splashing buttercream and fondant roses across the white parquet. Su Yao screamed. A bridesmaid grabbed at her dress, but it was too late. The pristine train was now SMEA red with strawberry filling and gold leaf. Zhou Yan lurched forward to catch her, but he was too slow, or maybe too shocked, because Su Yao hit the ground with a thud that echoed through the ballroom. Her tiara skittered across the floor and came to rest at my feet. I looked down at it. Tiny rhinestones glinting in the chandelier light. I didn't pick it up. Grandma took my arm and steered me toward the side exit. Behind us, my mother's voice rose in a screech that could have shattered glass. My father was shouting at Grandma, something about respect and humiliation. Suyao was crying in earnest now, her perfect wedding day dissolving into a catastrophe of frosting and cameras. I didn't look back. The night air hit me like a physical relief. The parking lot was damp with evening mist, and the valet was staring at us with wide eyes. Grandma pulled a crumpled 20 from her pocket and pressed it into his hand. "Get us a cab," she said. "The kind with the leather seats." The valet scrambled to obey. I stood beside my grandmother, shivering in my ruined dress, and felt the weight of the last 3 years slowly lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't gone. It wouldn't be gone for a while. But it was lighter. Enough to breathe. Grandma didn't say a word until we were in the cab, rolling through the neon-lit streets. Then she reached over, took my hand, and squeezed. "I knew," she said. "I knew the whole time. I just needed you to be ready to know it too." I leaned my head on her shoulder and closed my eyes. The city hummed past us, indifferent and eternal. Somewhere behind us, my sister was crying over spilled cake and a groom who'd never really wanted her. Somewhere, my mother was already spinning the disaster into a story where I was the villain. But in this cab, with Grandma's quiet breathing beside me and the deed to the old house tucked inside my clutch like a promise, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with the evidence. There were 34 screenshots, 9 bank statements, and a recorded phone call I'd made 6 months ago, when Zhou Yan had accidentally left his Bluetooth connected to my car. ISTA read at the list. Then I typed a message to my lawyer friend Jiang Yu, "It's time." She replied in seconds, "Finally. I've been waiting for this text for 2 years." I smiled. It felt strange on my face. But good. The cab turned a corner, and the old city district read ahead, narrow streets, ancient trees, and the faint glow of lamps from windows where people were living ordinary lives. Somewhere in that maze of alleys was Grandma's house. My house now. A house with a courtyard and a locust tree and a history that went back further than Zhou Yan's career or Su Yao's designer dress. Grandma patted my hand. "We'll plant new flowers in the spring," she said. "Your mother always hated jasmine. So we'll plant jasmine. Everywhere." I laughed. It came out watery, choked with everything I hadn't let myself feel. Grandma just squeezed her rider and told the cab driver to take the long way. That night, I slept in the old house for the first time in a decade. The bed was creaky, the pillow smelled like mothballs, and somewhere outside, a cat was yowling. But I slept without dreaming, without waking at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding. The war wasn't over. It had really begun. But for the first time, I had an remade. I woke up to the smell of congee and the sound of my grandmother humming an old folk song off-key. The bed was lumpy and my neck had a crick from the ancient pillow, but for the first time in 18 months, I didn't reach for my phone to check if Zhou Yan had come home. I lay there for a moment, STA ring at the ceiling. There was a water stain shaped vaguely like a rabbit. I remembered STA ring at that same stain when I was 8, lying in this same bed during summer vacations, convinced it was a secret code left by the ghosts in the walls. Now I was 32, divorced adjacent, and the ghost in the walls turned out to be my husband. Grandma's voice floated up the stairs. "Soon Yan. If you're not down in 5 minutes, I'm eating both bowls." I swung my legs out of bed and padded to the bathroom in my BA feet. The mirror was fogged from the hot water, so I wiped a circle clean and looked at my reflection. I looked tired. My eyes had dark circles that no amount of concealer could fix. But there was something different about my face, too. A looseness around the mouth. A softening in the jaw. Like I'd been clenching my teeth for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to unclench. I showered, pulled on an old sweater and jeans from the weekend bag I'd thrown together 2 days ago, and went downstairs. The kitchen was small and cramped, with linoleum floors that curled at the edges and a stove that had been installed before I was born. Grandma stood at the counter, stirring a pot with one hand and holding her phone in the other. She'd gotten a SMA-rathon last year, insisted on it, even though she still called it the little glowing brick. Your mother called, she said without turning around. 12 times. I reached for a bowl. What did she say? That you've ruined your sister's life, that you're an ungrateful monster, that your father is probably going to have a stroke, and that you'd better get back to the hotel immediately and apologize on your knees. Grandma ladled congee into 2 bowls. I told her you were busy. Busy doing what? Sleeping. Grandma set the bowls on the table. You needed it. I sat down and wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. The congee was plain, just rice and water with a little salt, but it was the best thing I'd eaten in months. The first real meal I'd had with my shoulders down, my stomach unknotted. We ate in silence for a while. Then Grandma pushed her phone across the table. Your lawyer friend called too. Jiang Yu. She said to call her back when you're awake. She sounds like she's got a plan. I picked up the phone and dialed. Jiang Yu picked up on the first ring. Sun Yan. I've been waiting for you to wake up. Have you seen the news? My stomach dropped. What news? Someone leaked video of the cake incident. It's going viral on WeChat. The title is, Billionaire Bride's Wedding Turns into Food Fight After Sister Drops Receipts. I'm not kidding. My mom sent it to me this morning. I pressed my palm to my forehead. Oh no. Actually, oh yes. The comments say ruthless. Everyone's calling Zhou Yan a gold digger and your sister a homewrecker. Your mother's PR damage control is backfiring spectacularly because she keeps posting defensive rants that make everything worse. Jiang Yu's voice was practically gleeful. Also, I filed the divorce papers this morning. Expedited. I used the emotional distress clause and included the hotel receipts and the Instagram photo as exhibits A through C. He has 10 business days to respond. 10 business days. A countdown. I almost laughed. What happens if he doesn't respond? Then we win by default. But he will respond. He's too proud not to. Jiang Yu paused. There's something else. Zhou Yan's company is doing a background check on him for a big merger deal. Someone on their board saw the video. They're asking questions. I have a source inside HR who says his job is on the line. I let that sink in. Zhou Yan had built his entire identity around his title, his office corner, his expense account. Without that, he was just a man in an expensive tie with a wife who'd finally stopped pretending. Good, I said. Then I felt a little guilty. Then I squashed the guilt with a spoonful of congee. Jiang Yu laughed. That's the spirit. I'll text you updates. And Sun Yan, I'm proud of you. She hung up. I handed the phone back to Grandma, who had been pretending not to listen while aggressively stirring her tea. Good, Grandma asked. Good, I said. Grandma nodded once, sharply, like a general who just received a favorable battle report. Now eat. You're going to need your strength. I made an appointment for you with a man I know. I paused, spoon halfway to my mouth. A man, a financial advisor. Young, smart, UNMA right. Works for that big firm on the east side. Grandma's eyes sparkled with an innocence that was absolutely, completely fake. I told him you'd be coming by this afternoon. He's expecting you. Grandma. I'm still legally married. Legally, yes. Emotionally, you've been divorced for 2 years. She waved a hand dismissively. This isn't a date. It's a business meeting. You need someone to help you sort out all those properties you've been buying. That's good sense. You can't do everything alone. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. She had a point. I'd been managing everything myself so far, but the stack of documents in my study was getting taller every month. A professional could help. Fine, I said. But if he's weird, I'm leaving. Grandma smiled. He's not weird. He's nice. And he makes good eye contact. I should have known then that she was up to something. But I was too exhausted to read between the lines. The office was in a glass tower that reflected the afternoon sun like a giant mirror. I felt underdressed in my jeans and old sweater, but the receptionist didn't bat an eye when I gave my name. Mr. Liu is expecting you, she said, and ushered me into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the whole city sprawled out below. I was examining a framed photograph of the skyline when the door opened. A man walked in, carrying a leather portfolio and a cup of ice water. He was tall, lean, wearing a gray button-down with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing a silver watch with a scratched face. His hair was neat but not fussy. His eyes were dark and steady. Miss Su, he said. I'm Lu Xingzhou. Your grandmother told me you'd be coming. He extended his hand. I shook it. His palm was warm and dry, his grip firm but not aggressive. She didn't tell me much else, I said. Just that you're a financial advisor. That's accurate. He pulled out a chair and sat down, spreading a stack of documents across the table. I've taken the liberty of doing some preliminary research on your properties. I hope that's not too four-way road. I blinked. Research, your grandmother sent me the addresses last week. She said you might need help with asset allocation, tax strategy, rental agreements. I wanted to be prepared. He pushed a color-coded spreadsheet toward me. These are the current market valuations for each property, along with projected appreciation rates and potential rental yields. The penthouse on Wenhua Road has the highest immediate value, but the one near the new business district will probably outpace it in 5 to 7 years. ISTA read at the spreadsheet. It was meticulous. Detailed. He'd even flagged potential tenant issues and recommended property management companies. You did all this before we met. I like to be prepared. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes flickered. Amusement embarrassment, your grandmother also mentioned you like jasmine tea. I had some brought in from the place down the street. He gestured to a small pot on the side table that I hadn't noticed. It was steaming. I sat down. Road, I'm rooting to feel like I'm being set up. Lu Xingzhou finally smiled. It was a small smile, rely there, but it changed his whole face. You're not wrong. Your grandmother called me 3 times last week. She's very persuasive. I laughed despite myself. She's terrifying. She's wonderful, he corrected softly. I've known her for about 5 years. My grandfather was her neighbor in the old district. When he passed away, she helped my family with the estate paperwork. She didn't have to. She just did it. 5 years. He'd known Grandma for 5 years, and I'd never heard of him. I filed that away for later. We spent the next hour going over the numbers. Lu Xingzhou was patient, clear, never condescending. When I asked a dumb question about capital gains tax, he didn't make me feel stupid. He just explained it again with a different example. When I got distracted by a notification on my phone, Jiang Yu texting that Zhou Yan's lawyer had requested a mediation meeting, he paused and asked if I needed a moment. No, I said, turning the phone face down. I'm here. He nodded and continued. At the end of the hour, he'd given me a detailed plan for each property, a timeline for next steps, and a list of potential red flags to watch out for. Rental properties can be nightmare res, he said. Bad tenants, maintenance issues, zoning changes. If you decide to go that route, I'd recommend using a management company. I know a few reliable ones. Thank you. I gathered the papers into a neat stack. I'm not sure how to pay you for this. Your time, your grandmother already took care of it. He held up a hand. She said to tell you it's a wedding gift. For your marriage to yourself. I burst out laughing. It was genuine, unglorified, the kind of laugh I hadn't let myself have in years. She actually said that. She said, tell her it's a dowry for the only man she'll ever need to trust, herself. Lu Xingzhou's eyes were warm now, that flicker of amusement fully surfaced. I think she may be the wisest person I've ever met. She's definitely the most stubborn. That too. I stood up to leave, clutching the folder. At the door, I hesitated. One more thing. You mentioned that you know Grandma for 5 years. But I never saw you at the old house. I go there pretty often. Lu Xingzhou looked down at his desk. I mostly visited in the evenings. After work. Your grandmother and I play chess. She beats me every time. She said you weren't ready to meet me yet. She said I had to wait for the right time. I felt my cheeks warm. She really is a schemer. She says it's called strategic planning. He looked up, his gaze direct but not pushy. I think she just wanted us to meet without the pressure of a setup. So this was just about business. Right. Business. The silence stretched for 1 beat, maybe 2. Then I said, thank you again, Mr. Lu. Xingzhou, he corrected. If we're going to be working together, you might as well use my first name. Xingzhou, I repeated. It felt strange on my tongue. New. Good. His smile widened just a fraction. Drive safe, Sun Yan. The traffic on the ring road is terrible at this hour. I walked out of the glass tower and stood on the sidewalk for a full minute, feeling the sun on my face and the folder warm in my hands. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Zhou Yan. Sun Yan, we need to talk. I'm coming to the old house tonight. Don't do anything stupid. I read the message 3 times. Then I typed back, don't bother. I'll send you the mediation schedule through my lawyer. His response was immediate. You're making a mistake. I didn't answer. I put the phone in my pocket and sta route walking Tower RD the subway station. Somewhere behind me, the glass tower glittered in the afternoon light, and somewhere on the top floor, Lu Xingzhou was probably already diving back into spreadsheets and client meetings. But I didn't think about that. I thought about Grandma's kitchen, the locust tree in the courtyard, and the 6 deeds in my safe deposit box. I thought about the work I still had to do, the walls I still had to tear down, the life I was building piece by piece with my own 2 hands. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. That I was ready. That the subway ride gave me 45 minutes to think. I sta read at my reflection in the dark window, watching the tunnels flash by, and replayed the conversation with Lu Xingzhou in my head. There was something about the way he'd said my name. Not like he was testing it, but like he already knew it. Like he'd been saying it to himself for a while. That I shook that thought loose and pulled out my phone. Jiang Yu had sent a string of messages, updates, mostly, about the divorce proceedings and Zhou Yan's lawyer trying to delay things. I scrolled through them, typing quick responses, when my thumb caught on a name I hadn't looked at in 2 days. Lin Warner. The girl from the hotel photo.id blocked her number after the wedding. But she'd left a voicemail that I'd saved without listening to. I tapped it now, pressing the phone to my ear as the train rattled through a curve. Sun Yan. Her voice was high and trembly, like she'd been crying. I don't know if you'll even hear this, but I need you to know, Zhou Yan told me he was divorcing you. He said you 2 had been separated for months. He said you didn't see about him anymore. I didn't know about Su Yao. I swear I didn't know. I'm not a homewrecker. I'm just stupid. The message ended. I sta read at the phone for a long moment. Then I saved it to the same folder with the rest of the evidence. Not because I believed her, but because if she was telling the truth, it meant Zhou Yan had lied to everyone. His mistress, his new wife, his board of directors. He'd built his whole life on a foundation of carefully chosen half-truths. The train pulled into my stop. I got off and walked the 10 minutes to Grandma's house, my footsteps echoing on the old stone streets. The neighborhood was quiet, sleepy, the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked and knew their neighbors' names. The locust tree in Grandma's courtyard was shedding its leaves in a slow golden rain. I pushed open the gate and stopped. Zhou Yan was standing on the front steps. He was still in his wedding suit, though he'd ditched the tie and unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of his shirt. His hair was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed, and he looked like he hadn't slept. He looked, for the first time since I'd known him, desperate. Sun Yan. He stepped forward, hands raised like I was a frightened animal. Please. Just let me explain. I stayed where I was, one hand on the gate. You have 10 minutes. Then I'm calling the police. That's not fair, 7 minutes. He swallowed hard. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Everything that happened at the wedding, I never wanted it to go that way. I never wanted to hurt you. I folded my arms. You married my sister. She pursued me. She knew we were having problems, and Zhou Yan. My voice was flat, calm. The voice I used when I was done being angry. I don't see who pursued who. You made a choice. You chose her. And you chose Lin Warner. And probably others I don't even know about. He opened his mouth, closed it. His face was doing something strange, flickering between shame and defiance and something that looked almost like grief. I know. I know I messed up. But you have to understand, our marriage wasn't working. You were always so distant. You never needed me for anything. Every time I came home, you were already busy with your spreadsheets or your projects. You made me feel like I was just in the way. I let that land. And then I laughed until tears pricked the corners of my eyes, until Zhou expression shifted from pleading to alarm. You think I was distant because I didn't want you. I was distant because I knew. I knew you were lying about where you went at night. I knew about the credit card charges. I knew about the hotel rooms. I stepped closer, and he stepped back. I was busy with my spreadsheets because I was tracking your expenses. I was working on my projects because I was building a way out. You didn't notice any of it. Because you never really looked at me. His face went gray. Grandma Ape read in the doorway behind him, her cane in hand. Is he bothering you? Just leaving, Zhou said quickly. But he didn't move. He stood there, trapped between me and Grandma, and his shoulders sagged. Sun Yan. The company is asking questions. There's going to be an internal review. If my merger falls through, I'll lose everything. My reputation, my career, That's not my problem. Please. I'm begging you. If you drop the evidence, if you just tell them it was all a misunderstanding, I can make this right. I'll give you the penthouse back. I'll give you anything. I looked at him. This man I'd married. This man I'd planned a future with. This man who'd stood beside my sister at the altar and not once looked at me with regret until his own neck was on the line. Go home, Zhou, I said. Talk to your lawyer. My lawyer will contact yours. He stood there for another long moment. Then he turned and walked away, his expensive shoes scuffing on the old stone path. The gate creaked shut behind him. Grandma came to stand beside me. You handled that well. I've had practice. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. He's SCA red. He's never been SCA red before. Good. FIAR means he knows he's losing. Grandma patted my arm, come inside. I made dumplings. We ate dumplings in the small kitchen, the windows fogged up from the steam. Grandma asked about Lu Xingzhou, and I told her about the meeting, about the spreadsheets and the jasmine tea. She smiled a little smile that she tried to hide behind her teacup. He's a good man, she said. His grandfather was my neighbor for 30 years, taught me how to prune the apple trees. When he died, Xingzhou came to help clean out the house. He stayed for 3 hours, even though he was grieving. He just kept helping. That's the kind of person he is. I picked up another dumpling. You're not subtle, Grandma. I'm not trying to be subtle. I'm trying to help you see what's in front of you. She pointed her chopsticks at me. You've been so busy looking backway that you've forgotten how to look forway road. But that's okay. That's what I'm here for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the old bed, sta ring at the rabbit-shaped water stain, and replayed everything. Zhou Yan's begging. Grandma's quiet wisdom. Lu Xingzhou's steady gaze. The world was shifting around me, rearranging itself into something new and unfamiliar. I got up around midnight and walked to the study. The folder with the deed to the old house was still on the desk, next to the stack of property documents I'd brought from the city. I opened it, running my fingers over the yellowed paper. My grandmother's name was on it, faded but legible. And beneath it, in spidery handwriting, a note, to my granddaughter, who deserves a home of her own. I sat down at the desk and pulled out a blank notebook. For the next hour, I wrote plans, goals, dreams. Things I'd stopped letting myself want because I'd been too busy surviving. A trip to the coast. A small art studio. Weekly dinners with Grandma. Maybe, eventually, a GA den. When I finished, the first light of dawn was creeping through the window. I closed the notebook and went back to bed. 2 days later, I got a call from Jiang Yu. Zhou Yan had signed the divorce papers. No contest, no counterclaims. Just his signature, shaky and small, at the bottom of the last page. He folded, she said. His lawyer told him to cut his losses. The merger's officially on hold now. His board is reviewing his conduct. Whatever that means. I sat down at the kitchen table. Grandma was outside, watering her jasmine plants. I could hear her humming through the open window. Did he say anything? I asked. He sent a message through his lawyer. Said to tell you he's sorry. Said he hopes you find happiness. Jiang Yu snorted. Too little, too late. Yeah, I agreed. Way too late. But that afternoon, I found myself walking through the city, aimless. I ended up near Lu Xingzhou's office tower without meaning to. I stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the glass facade, and my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your grandmother gave me your number. She said you might be in the neighborhood. If you're free, I'm about to grab coffee downstairs. LXC, I looked up. On the ground floor of the tower, through the big windows, I could see a small cafe. And sitting at a table near the window, stirring a cup of tea, was Lu Xingzhou. He looked up at the exact moment I spotted him, as if he'd been waiting that I walked in. He stood up, a little awkwardly, almost knocking his cup over. Sorry, he said. That was forward of me. I just thought. It's fine. I sat down across from him. I was in the neighborhood. Actually, I saw you from the window. He flushed slightly. I've been looking out the window for the last 20 minutes. I was rooting to think you wouldn't come. I laughed. That's a little stalker. Why? I prefer strategically observant. He pushed a cup of jasmine tea toward me. This is for you. I remembered. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup and looked at him. In the soft cafe light, he looked younger than he had in the office, more relaxed. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. Thank you, I said. For the tea. And for the meeting. And for not making things weird. Making things weird is my specialty, he said dryly. But I'm trying to be better. We talked for an hour. Not about properties or taxes, but about things that didn't matter. The weather. His grandfather's apple trees. A stray cat he'd been feeding behind his apartment building. Little pieces of a life I was learning, slowly, to trust. When I finally stood up to leave, he walked me to the door. I'm sorry, he said abruptly. About everything you've been through. I know it's not my place to say that. But your grandmother told me enough. And I wanted you to know that you deserve good things. I looked at him. He wasn't saying it for effect. There was no agenda behind his eyes. Just honesty, open and steady. Thank you, I said. I'm rooting to believe that. He smiled. It was a real smile, not the real professional one he'd worn in the office. Good. That's the most important step. I walked home through the golden afternoon light, my hands deep in my pockets, and felt the weight on my shoulders get a little lighter. Somewhere behind me, Lu Xingzhou was probably walking back to his office. Somewhere ahead, Grandma was waiting with dinner and questions I couldn't answer yet. But for the first time, I didn't mind not having the answers that I had time. I had space. I had a house with a courtyard and a grandmother who loved me and a future that was mine to shape. And I was rooting to realize, a small but growing hope that maybe, just maybe, I might let someone else shape it with me. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. I remember because it rained that morning, a steady gray drizzle that turned the streets slick and made the locust tree in Grandma's courtyard droop its branches like it was mourning with me. I wasn't mourning. I was standing in my old bedroom, watching the water run down the window, and feeling nothing but a strange, hollow calm. Jiang Yu called at 10:47 a.m. It's done. The judge signed off. You're officially single. I sat down on the edge of the bed. That's it. No drama, no last-minute appeals. He didn't even show up. She paused. His lawyer said he's taking a leave of absence from work. Something about mental health. I think he's just hiding. Good, I said. Let him hide. Jiang Yu laughed, but there was something gentle in it. How are you feeling? Like I just finished a marathon and someone handed me a glass of water. Relieved. Tired. A little bit like I don't know what to do with my hands now that I'm not holding on to anything. That'll pass. She was quiet for a moment. I'm proud of you, Sun Yan. You did the hardy thing. You did the right thing. Not everyone can say that. I hung up and sat there for a long time. The rain continued to fall. Somewhere downstairs, Grandma was making lunch. I could hear the rhythmic chop of her knife against the cutting board. The sounds of ordinary life, steady and unhurried. I got up, pulled on a jacket, and walked to the study. The property folder was still there, but now there was a new addition, a thick manila envelope with my name on it, delivered yesterday by courier. I opened it and found a letter from Zhou Yan's lawyer, a formal notice of the property settlement, and a handwritten note from Zhou Yan himself. Sun Yan, I know this doesn't fix anything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted you to have this. It was always yours. I was just too stupid to see it. Zhou Yan, inside the envelope was a key. A key to the penthouse that had root all of this, the one he'd tried to take from me at the wedding. He'd had a copy made and sent it back, with a legal document relinquishing all claims. I held the key in my palm. It was just a small piece of metal. But it felt heavier than it should. Grandma Ape read in the doorway. Lunch is ready. And you have a visitor. I looked up. Who? She smiled, that infuriatingly mysterious smile. Come see. I walked into the living room and stopped. Lu Xingzhou was standing by the window, looking out at the rain, his hands clasped behind his back. He was wearing a navy sweater and jeans, casual in a way I hadn't seen before. When he turned, his face softened. Sorry for the surprise visit, he said. Your grandmother invited me. She said you might need a distraction today. Grandma, from the kitchen, called out, Don't blame me. I just made extra food. He happened to be walking by. Lu Xingzhou raised an eyebrow at me. I shook my head, smiling despite myself. She's a terrible yar. She's been planning this for a week. He laughed, that same low quiet laugh I'd heard in the cafe. I figured. But I came anyway. Grandma served lunch, braised pork belly, stir-fried greens, a big pot of rice, and we sat around the small table, eating and talking about nothing important. The rain kept falling outside, and the kitchen was warm and steamy, and it felt so ordinary, so right, that I almost forgot everything that had happened in the last month. After lunch, Grandma announced she needed a nap and vanished upstairs, leaving me and Lu Xingzhou alone. We stood in the kitchen, washing dishes together, our elbows bumping occasionally in the small space. So, he said, handing me a plate to dry. Now that it's official. What are you going to do? I wiped the plate slowly. I'm going to move back into the penthouse. The one he tried to take. It's mine now, officially. I want to make it feel like mine. I paused. And I want to travel. I've been thinking about it for years. Maybe go somewhere with no expectations. Just me and a suitcase. That sounds good. He took another plate. When are you going? Soon, I think. I need to clear out my head. Figure out who I am when I'm not fighting. He nodded, and we fell into silence. But it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that felt comfortable, easy. Like two people who had all the time in the world. That evening, he left. I walked him to the gate, and he turned to look at me, rain misting his shoulders. Sun Yan, he said. I'm not going to push you. I know you need space. But I want you to know, I'll be here when you get back. If you want that. I looked at him, standing in the drizzle with his hands in his pockets and his hair curling damply at his temples. He wasn't asking for anything. He was just offering. That was all. I want that, I said. I think I do. He smiled, that small smile that transformed his whole face. Good. Then I'll be here. I left for the coast 3 weeks later. I told myself it was just a vacation, a long weekend to clear out my head. I packed a small bag and took a train to a tiny seaside town that I'd never visited before. No plan, no itinerary. Just me, the ocean, and a stack of books I'd been meaning to read for years. The town was sleepy, quiet, full of old buildings and narrow streets that smelled like salt and fried fish. I found a small guest house overlooking the water and checked in under a fake name, just for the fun of it. Mrs. Lee, the owner, was a round woman with a booming laugh and a habit of feeding me extra portions at dinner. I spent the first day walking along the beach. The second day I sat on a pier and watched the fishermen haul in their catch. The third day I bought a sketchbook and sta route drawing again for the first time in a decade. My hands were clumsy, out of practice, but the act of it felt like coming home to a party of myself I'd long forgotten. On the fourth day, I got a text from Lu Xingzhou. No preamble. Just a photo of a cat sleeping in a sunbeam, captioned, "The stray I told you about." He's adopted me. I think I'm a cat person now. I laughed out loud on the pier, sta rightling a seagull. I typed back, he looks like he's making himself comfortable. He is. He's on my couch. I have no idea what to do with a cat. Buy him food. And a bed. And maybe a toy. He'll train you. His response came quickly, that's what I'm afraid of. We texted every day after that. Small things. What he ate for lunch. The stray cat's new name, he'd called him Rice Ball, because he was round and white. The progress of the jasmine plants in Grandma's courtyard, which she'd been watering obsessively. It was all so mundane, so normal, but I found myself looking forward to his messages more than I wanted to admit. 2 weeks passed. The town grew familiar. The fisherman sta route waving at me when I walked past the docks. Mrs. Lee taught me how to make her famous fish stew. I filled half the sketchbook with drawings of the sea, the gulls, the old lighthouse at the edge of the cliffs. And then one evening, I got a call from Grandma. "Are you coming home?" she asked. No preamble. "Soon," I said. "Why?" "Because the jasmine is blooming. And I need help pruning the tree. And a certain someone keeps asking about you." Subtly. Which is not his strong suit. I could hear the smile in her voice. "He's a terrible yar, that one. But he's a good man. And I think he misses you." I was quiet for a moment. The sun was setting over the ocean, turning the water into a sheet of gold. "I miss him too," I admitted. "A little." "A little, that's all, fine." "A lot." "But don't tell him I said that." Too late. I'd already told him. "Grandma." She laughed, that cackling old lady laugh that always made me smile. "Come home, soon Yen. You've had your time to think. Now it's time to live." I packed my bag the next morning. Mrs. Lee hugged me at the door and pressed a container of fish stew into my hands. "For the road," she said. "And for the man you're going back to." "He's not mine," I said. "Not yet," she said, winking. The train ride back was long, but I didn't mind. I watched the coast fade into hills, the hills fade into the suburbs fade into the city I'd left behind. It all looked different now. Brighter. Less threatening. When I walked through the gate of Grandma's house, the locust tree was in full bloom, its branches heavy with tiny white flowers. The courtyard smelled sweet and green. And standing under the tree, holding a cup of jasmine tea, was Lu Xingzhou. He looked up when I came in, and his whole face transformed. That small smile, the one that made his eyes crinkle at the corners, spread across his face. "Welcome back," he said. I set down my bag and walked toward him. "You waited." I said I would. He held out the cup of tea. "Grandma told me you'd be coming today. I've been standing here for an hour. This is my third cup." I took the tea and sipped it. It was warm, fragrant, perfect. "Thank you for waiting." He tilted his head, studying me. "Did you find what you were looking for?" I thought about the ocean, the pier, the sketchbook filled with drawings. I thought about the weeks I'd spent alone, learning to be quiet with myself, learning to enjoy my own company. I thought about all the years I'd wasted being afraid, and all the weeks I'd spent unlearning that fear. "Yeah," I said. "I think I did." He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and in his gaze was something patient and steady, like a lighthouse in a storm. Not demanding. Just present. Just there. I set down the tea and took a step closer. "I'm not ready for anything big," I said. "I'm still figuring out who I am. But I'd like you to be part of that figuring. If you're okay with going slow." He nodded slowly. "Slow is fine. I can do slow. I've been waiting 5 years to meet you properly. I can wait a little longer." 5 years, I blinked. "Grandma said you've known her for 5 years. You mean, I've known about you for 5 years." He rubbed the back of his neck, looking almost embarrassed. "Your grandmother told me about you. Showed me pictures. Said you were the most stubborn, kindest, most loyal person she'd ever met. And she said one day, when you were ready, I should be ready too. ISTA read at him. She's been matchmaking us for 5 years. Maybe more. She's very patient. ISTA root laughing. I couldn't help it. All that time, all those dinners at Grandma's house, all those subtle questions about my life and my future, it had all been part of a plan. A plan hatched by an 82-year-old woman with a cane and a stubborn streak a mile wide. Did you know when you came to meet me that first time, I knew she wanted us to meet. I didn't know if it would work. But I wanted to try. He met my eyes, steady and sincere. I'm glad I did. I stood there in the courtyard, surrounded by jasmine and locust blossoms, and let myself feel it. The relief. The hope. The small, tentative spark of something that might one day grow into more. Okay, I said. Let's try. He smiled again, that full smile that made him look younger, lighter. And that was enough. For now, that was more than enough. The sun was setting behind the old rooftops, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Grandma's voice floated from the kitchen window, dinner in 30 minutes. Don't make it weird. I laughed and reached for Lu Xingzhou's hand. He took it without hesitation, his palm warm and steady against mine. We had time. We had space. We had a future that was ours to shape, together. The wedding was small. That was my one condition. No ballrooms, no 3-tiered cakes, no distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in a decade. Just the courthouse, a handful of people who actually mattered, and a lunch reservation at a restaurant that didn't require a valet. Lu Xingzhou, my fiancé now, a word that still felt foreign and wonderful on my tongue, had agreed without hesitation. Whatever you want, he'd said. I just want to marry you. The rest is details. Grandma had protested, of course. She'd wanted a proper ceremony, with flowers and music and a white dress that cost more than my first car. But I'd held firm, and eventually she'd relented, muttering something about young people these days, and no sense of occasion. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my penthouse, the one I'd fought for, and looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city waking up below. The sun was rising over the skyline, painting the glass towers in shades of gold and rose. I'd lived here for 6 months now, and every morning still felt like a small miracle. My phone buzzed. Jiang Yu, on my way. Don't you restart without me. I smiled and typed back, wouldn't dream of it. I took a long shower, put on a simple cream-colored dress I'd bought at a vintage shop downtown, and did my own hair and makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who looked calm, peaceful, happy, even. The dark circles under my eyes had faded. The tension in my jaw was gone. I looked like someone who had finally, after years of fighting, learned how to rest. The courthouse was a gray stone building with tall columns and a bronze plaque that read, EST 1887. It was the kind of place that had seen thousands of marriages and thousands of divorces, that had witnessed joy and grief in equal measure. I liked it for that. It felt honest. Lu Xingzhou was waiting for me at the bottom of the steps, wearing a gray suit and a nervous smile. He was holding a small bouquet of jasmine, Grandma's idea, I was sure, and when he saw me, his whole face softened. You look beautiful, he said. You look nervous, I replied. I'm not nervous. I'm just anticipatory. He held out the flowers. These are from your grandmother. She said they're for good luck. I took them and inhaled the sweet scent. She's not here yet, she's inside. She wanted to get the best seat. He paused. Also, she told me to tell you that if I hurt you, she has a cane and she knows how to use it. I laughed. She's terrifying. She's wonderful, he corrected, echoing his words from months ago. And she loves you more than anything. I'm lucky she approved of me. We walked into the courthouse together, his hand warm and steady in mine. The ceremony was short, a judge with kind eyes and a gentle voice, a few simple vows we'd written ourselves, a kiss that tasted like hope and jasmine and the beginning of something new. When it was over, we walked back out into the sunlight, and Jiang Yu threw handfuls of dried flower petals at us while Grandma clapped and cried and pretended she wasn't crying. There were only 6 of us in total, me, Lu Xingzhou, Grandma, Jiang Yu, and 2 of Xingzhou's friends who'd driven down from the city. It was perfect. We went to a small restaurant after ARD, a place that served the kind of home-style king that reminded me of Grandma's kitchen. We ate until we were stuffed, told embarrassing stories about our childhoods, and drank toasts to the future. At some point, Grandma pulled me aside. I have something for you, she said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside was a jade bracelet, smooth and green and ancient, the same one she'd shown me months ago. Your grandmother's grandmother wore this at her wedding. So did your grandmother. And I wore it at mine. Now it's yours. I took the bracelet with trembling fingers. Grandma, I can't, you can, and you will. It's tradition. She fastened it around my wrist. We are it with joy, Sun Yan. UVA renette it. I hugged her, and she hugged me back, fierce and tight. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she patted my back and said, All right, enough of that. Go back to your husband. I want grandchildren eventually. Husband, I repeated. The word felt new in my mouth. That's going to take some getting used to. You've got time, she said. That's the thing about life. You always have time. Later that evening, Lu Xingzhou and I walked back to the penthouse together, hand in hand. The city was lighting up around us, neon and streetlights and the warm glow of apartment windows. It was the same city I'd lived in for years, but it looked different now. Like I was seeing it for the first time. Do you have any regrets? He asked as we walked. About the ceremony being so small, I shook my head. None. It was exactly what I wanted. Just the people who actually see a re. He squeezed my hand. Good. Because I was worried you might want something bigger. I would have done it, you know. If you'd wanted. I would have done anything. I stopped walking and turned to face him. The street was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic and the occasional chirp of a night bird. I know you would have. That's why I married you. He leaned in and kissed me, soft and sweet, right there on the sidewalk. No photographers, no audience, no pressure. Just us and the city and the rest of our lives stretching out ahead of us. We went back to the penthouse, changed into comfortable clothes, and curled up on the couch with a bottle of wine and a movie neither of us paid attention to. At some point, I fell asleep on his shoulder, and when I woke up, he was still there, watching the credits roll and stroking my hair. Hey, I mumbled. What time is it? Late. Or early. Depends on how you look at it. He kissed the top of my head. Go back to sleep. But I was awake now, and my mind was spinning with thoughts. Not anxious ones, not anymore, but the kind that came with the quiet of the night. What's next? I asked. After this. What's next? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we have a house with a courtyard road. We have a cat named Rice Ball. We have a grandmother who will probably show up unannounced with food every other day. We have jobs we see about and people we love. What else do we need? Maybe a garden, I said. And a dog. One thing at a time. He laughed softly. But yes. A dog. And a garden. And maybe someday, a kid or two. I turned to look at him. In the dark, his face was soft and open, his eyes reflecting the faint glow of the city lights. You want kids, I want a life with you, he said. Everything else is negotiable. I leaned in and kissed him again, deeper this time, tasting the wine and the future on his lips. And I thought about all the years I'd spent being afraid, all the years I'd spent settling for less than I deserved, all the tears I'd cried over men who never really saw me. They had all led here. To this moment. To this man. To this version of myself that I was still learning to love. When I pulled back, he was smiling. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said, that I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm glad I fought for myself. I'm glad I waited. He reached up and touched my face, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized was there. Me too, he said. Every day, me too. We fell asleep on the couch, tangled together like two puzzle pieces that had finally found their match. And when I woke up the next morning, sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen, Lu Xingzhou had learned how to make it. Eventually, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. Pure, uncomplicated, unshakable peace. The months that followed were a blur of small joys. Renovating the penthouse with Xingzhou's help. Planting jasmine in the courtyard at Grandma's house. Adopting Riceball's younger brother, a tiny gray tabby we named Dumpling because he was always curled up in a round ball. Weekly dinners at Grandma's, where she'd interrogate Xingzhou about his job and his intentions and his plans for the future, and he'd answer every question with patience and good humor. I went back to work, but differently this time. I'd root my own consulting firm, helping women who were going through divorces navigate the financial chaos. It wasn't glamorous. It was exhausting sometimes, and heartbreaking often. But it was mine, and it mattered. Jiang Yu said I was becoming a cliché. I told her I'd rather be a happy cliché than a miserable original. And then, one afternoon in the spring, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sun Yan. The voice was familiar, but softer now. Older. Worn down by something. It's Su Yao. Can we talk? I sat down at my desk. Outside my window, the city was bright and bustling, full of people living their ordinary lives. And I was one of them now, just another woman in a high-rise office, trying to do something meaningful with her time. What about? I asked. Everything. She paused. I'm sorry, Sun Yan. I'm so sorry. For everything I did. For everything I said. I was stupid and selfish and I hurt you in ways I can't take back. Her voice broke. I don't expect you to forgive me. I wanted you to hear it. From me. No excuses. I was quiet for a long time. The silence stretched between us like a river, full of all the things we'd never said. I don't forgive you, I said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I appreciate the apology. She let out a shaky breath. That's more than I deserve. Probably. I paused. But I'm glad you called. We didn't talk for long after that. There was too much history, too many wounds that hadn't fully healed. But when I hung up, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the beginning of something that might one day become forgiveness. That night, I told Xingzhou about the call. He listened without judgment, his hand resting on my knee as we sat on the couch. You don't have to forgive her, he said. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But I'm proud of you for taking the call. It was hard, I admitted. But it was the right thing. He squeezed my knee. You've always known the right thing. You just needed to trust yourself. I leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his shoulder against mine. I'm learning. And that was enough. That was more than enough. The summer came, hot and bright and full of possibility. Grandma turned 83, and we threw her a party in the courtyard, with fairy lights strung between the branches of the locust tree and a homemade cake that I'd spent 3 hours trying to frost. She complained that there were too many people and not enough food and that the music was too loud, but she was smiling the whole time, and she didn't let go of Xingzhou's hand for the entire evening. Thank you, I whispered to him as we watched her hold court, telling stories to anyone who would listen. For being here. For being patient. For being you. He wrapped an arm around my waist. Thank you for letting me in. For giving me a chance. 5 years, I said. You waited 5 years. I'd have waited 50. He kissed my temple. You were worth the wait. The party went on late into the night, laughter spilling out of the courtyard and into the quiet streets. And I stood there, surrounded by the people I loved, and felt the weight of the past finally, fully lift. I wasn't the same woman who'd stood in that hotel ballroom, clutching a champagne flute and swallowing her pride. I wasn't the same woman who'd cried into her pillow while her husband was out with someone else. I wasn't even the same woman who'd walked into Lu Xingzhou's office, suspicious and worried and afraid that I was someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who had learned, at last, that she was worth fighting for. The night sky was full of stars, the city humming its constant song in the distance. I looked up at the locust tree, at the jasmine blooming in the corner, at the house that had been in my family for 3 generations. And I thought about all the women who had come before me, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother. All of them had carried their own burdens, their own sorrows, their own small rebellions. And now it was my turn. Not to carry a burden, but to build a legacy. Something I could pass on. Something that would last. I turned to Xingzhou, who was watching me with that soft look he got when he thought I wasn't paying attention. I want to have children, I said. Someday. Soon. With you. His eyes widened. Then he smiled, that small smile that I'd fallen in love with. Yeah. I reached for his hand. I want to build a family. A real one. One that doesn't tear each other apart. He pulled me close, wrapping his arms around me like he'd never let go. We'll do it together, he said. Everything. Together. I closed my eyes and breathed in the scent of jasmine and summer and home. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.